Tombstone remains a cinematic monument to death, honor, and the merciless code of the gun. Yet life often mirrored art. Many of the film's stars later passed away under tragic circumstances, as though echoing the fates of the characters they once embodied. Who are the voices now silenced? Let us revisit their stories and pay tribute to the legacies they left behind. Robert Mitchum as narrator. Robert Charles Derman. Mitchum, born August 6, 1917, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, brought his unmistakable weight and authority to Tombstone, 1993, as its narrator. At 76, the oldest of the cast, he lent the film a sense of gravitas that only a Hollywood legend could provide. Just 4 years later, on July 1, 1997, Mitchum passed away at his Santa Barbara home, weeks before his 80th birthday. Complications from lung cancer and emphysema, consequences of a lifetime of heavy smoking, claimed him. He died quietly in his sleep, with his wife Dorothy at his side, the woman who had stood by him for 57 years despite decades of turbulence. His remains were cremated, his ashes scattered in the Pacific, with a memorial placed at Oddfellows Cemetery in Delaware. At the time of his death, his estate was valued around $10 million. Mitchum's own life was as stormy and compelling as the characters he embodied. His father's death left him orphaned at 2, and his childhood was marked by poverty, the streets, escapes from reform school, and odd jobs ranging from ditch digging to boxing. Those early struggles became the foundation of his screen persona. The tough, haunted drifter seen in classics like Out of the Past, 1947, and the sinister preacher in The Night of the Hunter, 1955. Though married to Dorothy Spence since 1940 and father to 3 children, Mitchum never resisted Hollywood's excesses. He drank heavily, reveled in wild parties, and pursued affairs with stars such as Ava Gardner, Gene Simmons, and Shirley MacLaine. Still, he always circled back to Dorothy, once confessing, "No one compares to her." Perhaps that untamed quality is why his legacy endures, a reminder of the dangerous allure of old Hollywood. Carey Jr. as Marshal Fred White. Carey Jr., born May 16, 1921, in Santa Clarita, California, brought quiet strength to Tombstone, 1993, when, at 72, he portrayed Fred White, the earnest but doomed marshal of the town. His character's fatal shooting at the hands of the unstable Johnny Ringo became a stark reminder of how fragile law and order could be in the chaos of the Old West. Though brief, the role carried weight, standing as a fitting epilogue to a career steeped in the Western tradition. On December 27, 2012, Carey Jr. passed away at his Santa Barbara home, aged 91. The cause was natural, age-related decline. He was laid to rest at Westwood Village Memorial Park, where many of Hollywood's greats lie. At his death, his estate was valued at about $1 million, a modest sum that reflected a man who pursued the craft of storytelling more than wealth or glamour. Beyond the saddle and screen, Carey Jr.'s life was marked by hardship and perseverance. He enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps during World War II, but was discharged after being diagnosed with nephritis, a debilitating kidney ailment that shadowed his youth. Living under the towering legacy of his father, the iconic Carey Sr., was both a privilege and a burden. Though he found success in John Ford's classics such as She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, 1949, and The Searchers, 1956, he was often relegated to supporting roles, his name absent from posters even when his performances were vital. His personal life offered steadiness. His marriage to Marilyn Fix endured for decades, though the couple bore the grief of losing an infant child, a loss that lingered quietly in their lives. In later years, Carey Jr. withdrew from Hollywood's spotlight, but his presence never faded from the hearts of Western enthusiasts. His career, like a desert cactus, seemed plain at first glance. Yet it endured, resilient and enduring, leaving behind a legacy of grit, humility, and unshakable devotion to the genre he helped define. Charlton Heston, as Henry Hooker. John Charles Carter, known to the world as Charlton Heston, was born on October 4, 1923, in Evanston, Illinois. By the time he appeared in Tombstone, 1993, as Henry Hooker, the steadfast rancher tied to the infamous lawmen, he was 70 years old. Even then, he carried the commanding gravitas of a Hollywood giant. On April 5, 2008, Heston passed away at his Beverly Hills home, aged 84. After years of struggling with Alzheimer's and pneumonia, he slipped away quietly in the arms of his wife, Lydia Clark, his companion of 64 years. His funeral, held at St. Matthew's Episcopal Church, reflected the life of a man who was both public icon and devoted family figure. With an estate estimated at $40 million, he left behind not only wealth, but a towering artistic and political legacy. Yet behind the grandeur was a man marked by hardship. Growing up during the Great Depression, he endured his parents' divorce, an isolated boy who felt out of place among wealthier peers. Fame eventually found him, an Oscar for Ben-Hur, 1959, immortality in Planet of the Apes, 1968, but it often came at the cost of closeness with his wife and children. Heston's convictions defined him as much as his roles. A vocal supporter of civil rights in the 1960s, he later turned toward conservative politics, eventually serving as president of the NRA, a position that split public opinion. In 2002, he revealed to the world that he had Alzheimer's. Slowly, the disease stole his memory, his voice, and the strength that had once made him the Moses of Hollywood. The man who commanded seas on screen faded into quiet obscurity, leaving one lingering question. When memory is gone, how does a legend live on? Don Collier as High Roller. Don Collier was born on October 17, 1928, in Santa Monica, California. At 64, he appeared in Tombstone, 1993, portraying High Roller, the quintessential gambler of the Old West. With his seasoned presence and unshakable composure, he lent the film a touch of authenticity, echoing the spirit of Hollywood's golden era of westerns. Though only a supporting role, his appearance carried the weight of a bygone tradition. Collier's story ended on September 13, 2021, when he passed away at the age of 92 in Prescott, Arizona, after a private struggle with lung cancer. By then, he had long retreated from the limelight, living a quiet life. His net worth was modest, about $1 million, but to admirers of cowboy films, his true wealth was the legacy he left behind on screen. His path to acting was neither easy nor straightforward. Before entering the world of cinema, Collier had worn many hats: a sailor in the Navy, a worker on oil rigs, and countless other jobs that marked a rugged beginning. He endured a brief, quietly dissolved marriage and remained without children. The turning point came in the late 1960s when he was cast as Sam Butler in The High Chaparral. That role placed his name firmly in front of the public and gave him a lasting foothold in the industry. Yet as the Western genre waned, so too did Hollywood's memory of him. Collier found himself surviving on savings and the occasional guest role in minor television productions. Free from scandals and vices, he instead bore a quieter burden: the sorrow of a man who had once stood in the sun, watching the shadows lengthen as the world moved on. Still, it was this very constancy, his steadfast devotion to the Western, that secured his place in the hearts of fans. To them, Don Collier was more than an actor. He was a living symbol of the frontier spirit, preserved on film even as time passed him by. Bill Paxton as Morgan Earp. Born on May 17, 1955 in Fort Worth, Texas, Bill Paxton stepped into the role of Morgan Earp in Tombstone, 1993, at the age of 38. As the loyal and tender-hearted younger brother of the famed Wyatt Earp, Morgan embodied conscience and familial devotion amidst a world ruled by violence and retribution. Paxton's portrayal infused the character with aching humanity, his performance reaching its heartbreaking peak in the assassination scene, one of the most soul-stirring moments of the film. Paxton's own story would later be marked by tragedy. On February 25, 2017, he died at 61 after heart surgery led to a fatal stroke. His passing stunned Hollywood and prompted his family to bring a civil lawsuit against the hospital where the procedure had been performed. At the time, his fortune, earned through decades of blockbuster films and acclaimed television work, was estimated at $40 million. His career was a tapestry of triumphs and private battles. Following his turn as Morgan Earp, Paxton headlined hits such as Twister, 1996, Titanic, 1997, and the acclaimed HBO drama Big Love, 2006 to 2011, in which he portrayed a man balancing 3 marriages with emotional gravity and moral complexity. Yet, behind the success, he endured personal hardship, including a spell of depression after the loss of his father, whom he revered. Ironically, Paxton had long been mindful of his heart health, which made the circumstances of his death feel especially cruel. He left behind his wife, Louise Newberry, and their 2 children, who faced not only a devastating loss, but also the absence of a husband and father still in his creative prime. Much like Morgan Earp, Bill Paxton's departure was sudden and profound, leaving an emptiness that lingers in the hearts of his loved ones and the countless fans who cherished him. Powers Boothe as Curly Bill Brocious. Powers Boothe was born on June 1, 1948, in Snyder, Texas. At 45, he stepped into the role of Curly Bill Brocious in Tombstone, 1993, the merciless leader of the cowboy gang and sworn enemy of the Earp brothers. Booth's portrayal, laced with ruthless cruelty, dark humor, and undeniable charisma, won praise for elevating a villain into one of the film's most unforgettable figures. His story ended on May 14, 2017, when he died suddenly at 68 from a heart attack in his sleep at his Los Angeles home. The news reverberated through Hollywood, leaving friends, colleagues, and fans stunned, especially since he had remained active in front of the camera until shortly before. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $8 million, earned through decades of acclaimed film and television work. From Deadwood and 24 to Agents of SHYELD, Booth's journey was marked by resilience and reinvention. Raised in a cotton farming family, he became the first in his household to attend college. Once aspiring to be an athlete, he turned instead toward the stage, cutting his teeth in classical theater before breaking into television and film. His breakthrough came in 1980, when he won an Emmy for his chilling performance as cult leader Jim Jones in Guyana Tragedy. The story of Jim Jones, a role that would shadow him for years. The demands of embodying such psychologically intense characters eventually took their toll. In the 2000s, Boothe battled health problems, including high blood pressure brought on by stress. Yet he pressed on, fueled by the same intensity that defined his work. By the end of his career, he had carved out a singular place in Hollywood. Celebrated as one of its great screen villains, capable of making evil not only believable, but dangerously magnetic. Sanford Gibbons as Father Feeney. Sanford Gibbons was born in 1933 in Kansas City, Missouri. At the age of 60, he appeared in Tombstone, 1993, portraying Father Feeney, a priest who spoke little yet lingered meaningfully in the film's most harrowing moments. Though his role was minor, his solemn gaze and quiet presence carried a symbolic weight, like a fragile emblem of faith standing against the brutality of the Old West. Gibbons's life came to an end on December 29, 2018, when he died of a heart attack at his Phoenix, Arizona home. He was 85. A recluse in his later years, he chose to have his ashes scattered in the Superstition Mountains, near the place where he once shared his craft as a teacher. At the time of his passing, his estate was valued at around $1 million, largely from teaching, royalties from earlier television appearances, and the books he had written on the entertainment business. Though he never reached stardom, his calm nature and devotion to the art earned him deep respect among students and colleagues alike. His path was shaped by hardships and quiet endurance. After serving in the military, Gibbons worked as a radio broadcaster in Alaska before drifting toward acting, finding small but steady work in shows like Alfred Hitchcock Presents. His personal life, however, was less steady. His marriage to actress Grace Williams eventually collapsed, worn down by years of his heavy drinking, a habit he had carried from his time in uniform. Together they had 2 sons, but after the divorce, he withdrew into solitude and saw them rarely. There were brighter moments. He once graced the Broadway stage in The Unsinkable Molly Brown, though steady opportunities in Hollywood proved elusive. In the twilight of his life, he turned to teaching, guiding young actors, and writing showbiz, voice, and talent work anywhere. A modest but heartfelt testament for those chasing the spotlight. Sanford Gibbons lived without fame or scandal, but his story was marked by loneliness and quiet struggle. In the end, his legacy is that of an uncelebrated artist, one who endured disappointment, yet remained unwaveringly faithful to his craft. Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday. Val Kilmer, born December 31st, 1959, in Los Angeles, California, delivered what many consider the performance of a lifetime as Doc Holliday in Tombstone, 1993. At just 34 years old, he embodied the frail yet razor-sharp gunslinger with a mix of menace and melancholy. With his rasping voice, piercing eyes, and a delicate balance of madness and composure, Kilmer turned a supporting role into the very heartbeat of the film. His portrayal has since been hailed as the greatest Doc Holliday of all time, cementing his place among the most celebrated actors of the decade. By 2025, Kilmer is 66 and lives quietly in New Mexico after years of struggling with throat cancer. Multiple surgeries have left him barely able to speak, and he now relies on a device to communicate. Though largely absent from public life, he continues to create through painting and writing, most notably his candid memoir, I'm Your Huckleberry, 2020. Despite illness cutting short his momentum, his career earnings, fueled by iconic performances in The Doors, 1991, Heat, 1995, and others, have left him with an estimated net worth of $10 million. The last decade tested him profoundly. Diagnosed with throat cancer in 2015, Kilmer initially refused chemotherapy because of his religious convictions. As the disease worsened, he agreed to surgery, costing him nearly all of his voice and stalling his once thriving career. The golden years of Top Gun and Batman Forever seemed to vanish overnight. And yet, in 2022, he returned to the screen in Top Gun: Maverick. His brief but deeply moving appearance brought audiences worldwide to tears, a reminder of both his talent and his resilience. Val Kilmer's life has become a story of artistic devotion and unyielding spirit, a man who, like his unforgettable Doc Holliday, faced ruin with grace and left behind words that still echo, I'm your Huckleberry. That's just my game. Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp. Kurt Russell was born on March 17, 1951, in Springfield, Massachusetts. At 42, he stepped into the legendary boots of Wyatt Earp in Tombstone, 1993. More than just the film's leading man, Russell was said to have quietly taken over much of the directing after George P. Cosmatos was eased aside. His performance cemented an enduring image of the Western hero, stoic, unyielding, and resolute. Now 74, Russell remains cherished as a figure synonymous with adventure, action, and the timeless spirit of the West. He has chosen a largely private life with actress Goldie Hawn, his partner of decades, with whom he has never formally married but built one of Hollywood's most enduring unions. From time to time, he still appears on screen in projects like Guardians of the Galaxy and The Christmas Chronicles. His career, spanning more than half a century, has earned him an estimated fortune of $100 million. Yet Russell's path was not without turbulence. A gifted child actor, he was once on track to become a professional baseball player until a serious injury ended that dream. That abrupt loss pushed him to embrace acting with full commitment, leading to defining roles in Escape from New York, 1981, The Thing, 1982, and ultimately Tombstone. He has admitted that early fame left him adrift, uncertain of himself, and that balancing career with family was often a struggle. Through it all, Goldie Hawn and their son, Wyatt Russell, became his greatest anchors and sources of strength. His story is a reminder that not all Hollywood success must be born of scandal or excess. For Kurt Russell, it has been about holding on to integrity, even in an industry built on illusion and temptation. Stephen Lang as Ike Clanton. Stephen Lang was born on July 11, 1952, in New York City. At 41, he joined the cast of Tombstone, 1993, stepping into the role of Ike Clanton, a volatile member of the cowboy gang and frequent adversary of Wyatt Earp. With untamed eyes and reckless energy, Lang portrayed a man both vicious and cowardly, shaping one of the film's most despised figures, and proving his remarkable talent for embodying complex villains. Now, at 73, Lang continues to work steadily, though never quite a fixture among Hollywood's A-list. He has recently returned to global audiences as Colonel Quaritch, the relentless nemesis in James Cameron's Avatar saga, reprising the role in The Way of Water, 2022, and the upcoming third installment. Beyond film, Lang remains deeply rooted in theater. His one-man play Beyond Glory, which recounts the experiences of American war veterans, highlights both his passion for the stage and his lasting connection to themes of war, honor, and sacrifice. His fortune is estimated at around $6 million, drawn from decades of film, theater, and live performances across the country. Yet behind his steady career lies a story marked by hardship. During the 1980s, Lang battled severe alcoholism, a time he described as blind darkness. Those years stalled his progress, leaving him with only small supporting roles, such as in Band of the Hand, 1986. His path forward began only after he overcame his addiction and reclaimed his place on stage, notably with Death of a Salesman, which helped restore his confidence and reputation. In 2017, Lang endured one of his greatest personal losses with the sudden death of his father, prominent businessman Eugene Lang. Though often branded a rich kid, Stephen refused an inheritance, instead directing his father's estate toward a charitable scholarship foundation. His private life, too, carried deep struggles, especially when his eldest son developed a serious mental disorder, casting the family into years of difficulty. During this period, Lang leaned on religion, finding in faith the strength to continue both his craft and his life. His career found a late resurgence with Don't Breathe, 2016, where his chilling performance won acclaim and earned him several independent award nominations. For audiences, Stephen Lang may often be the face of hardened villains, but behind those cold eyes is a man who has wrestled with addiction, grief, and personal storms, and who continues, against all odds, to rise. Michael Biehn as Johnny Ringo. Michael Biehn, born July 31, 1956 in Anniston, Alabama, is a veteran actor remembered for some of cinema's most iconic action roles. In Tombstone, 1993, at the age of 37, he brought to life Johnny Ringo, the cold, educated, and merciless gunslinger who stood as Doc Holliday's deadliest rival. With a performance charged by darkness, inner turmoil, and smoldering intensity, Biehn transformed Ringo into one of the most unforgettable villains of the modern Western. By 2025, Biehn is 69 years old and living in California with his wife, director Jennifer Blanc. Though his health has grown fragile, he continues to appear in small independent projects, staying close to the craft he has always loved. His net worth is estimated at around $4 million, much of it earned during his peak years in films like The Terminator, 1984, Aliens, 1986, and The Abyss, 1989. Hand-picked time and again by director James Cameron, Biehn nevertheless never reached the A-list stature of co-stars like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sigourney Weaver, owing partly to his fiercely private nature and partly to personal struggles that weighed heavily on his career. His life has been marked by triumphs shadowed with hardship. After his early successes, he began a downward spiral fueled by alcohol addiction and mental health battles. Through the 1990s and 2000s, his presence in major Hollywood productions dwindled, while recurring health issues, including heart problems and hospitalizations related to substance abuse, pushed him further from the spotlight. Biehn himself admitted that many golden opportunities slipped away because he could not keep control, though his talent for raw, emotionally charged performances never faded. In 2020, he startled and delighted longtime fans with a rare return in The Mandalorian. Time had etched itself deeply into his face and voice, but his presence carried the weight of an action legend re-emerging, if only briefly. Michael Biehn's journey stands as a poignant reminder. Hollywood's lights may dim, but the spirit of a true warrior on screen never entirely disappears. Sam Elliott, as Virgil Earp. Sam Elliott, born August 9, 1944, in Sacramento, California, has long stood as one of the quintessential faces of the American Western. With his unmistakably deep voice and commanding presence, he brought a timeless authenticity to the genre. In Tombstone, 1993, at the age of 49, Elliott portrayed Virgil Earp, the steadfast, honorable eldest of the Earp brothers. It was Virgil who first took on the badge of marshal, determined to bring order to a town consumed by lawlessness. With his piercing gaze and quiet strength, Elliott turned Virgil into a classic emblem of justice in the turbulent Wild West. Today, at 81, Sam Elliott remains active in film, though he chooses his roles with care. In recent years, he has earned acclaim for The Hero, 2017, and especially for A Star is Born, 2018, where his performance as the weary older brother brought him an Academy Award nomination at 74. Beyond film, his resonant voice has become a signature in commercials and documentaries alike. His net worth is estimated at around $20 million, built over decades of screen work and voiceover projects. Behind the public image lies a deeply personal journey. As a young man, Elliott faced fierce opposition from his father over his dream of becoming an actor. Their conflict drove him to leave home early and endure years of struggle in minor roles. His father's death, before any reconciliation could take place, became the greatest sorrow of his life, what Elliott himself has called a scar that never heals. In 1984, he married actress Catherine Ross, remembered for The Graduate. Their marriage weathered turbulence in the early 2000s, strained by the pressures of fame, but the two ultimately reconciled and built a quieter life together. His career reached memorable peaks with films like Mask, 1985, and The Big Lebowski, 1998, even as he wrestled privately with cigarette addiction and bouts of depression brought on by career instability. Now, in his later years, Elliott resides on a ranch in Oregon, far from Hollywood's noise. Still, both on screen and off, he continues to embody the eternal cowboy, rugged, reflective, and enduring. And what about the sorrowful destinies of the Tombstone cast? Were they written by fate, or merely the heavy toll of fame? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss more moving stories from behind the screen.